blessed and highly favored.
And you thank your mother for birthing you? I heard somebody out front say to a man, Happy Mother's Day. That sounds odd on its surface. But you wouldn't be here without your mother.
That's right.
Right? So it's Happy Mother's Day to whoever you are, because you don't get here without a mother.
Right.
Or
I know
a
most
mom.
of you have a mom, right? A person who downloads good things into you. And if you have a mama who did not download good things into you, there are women around you who can do it.
Yes.
Right? Surround yourself with that woman. Right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to do something a little unusual today. I'm going to teach out of Proverbs for Mother's Day. Normally I use a woman as an example in history, whether it be my history, your history, history in general. And instead, I'm going to talk about what it is to be a virtuous woman and what that means. But as you know, I love history. And so when you study Proverbs 31, you realize the first 9 verses don't look like they apply, but they do. All right? It's the setting or the backstory before we get into what's actually being said. Now, check this out. Let me read the first verse, and I will explain some things. Proverbs 31, verse 1. The sayings of King Lemuel contain this message, which his mother taught him. Okay, when you hear that on the surface, you go, wait a minute, Proverbs, I thought it was written by Solomon, right? Wisest man that ever lived. Well, have you noticed that 31 is the last proverb? What I've noticed is when you read it, it should have been the first proverb. The reason is because it goes into what a good woman is and what a good woman is not. Okay? And if you know anything about the story of Solomon, what seems to be his problem? Women. Not women as in a woman did the wrong thing, but women as in he had multiple of them, and they distracted him, and because they distracted him, he was a good king for about 2/3 of his life, the last third. He was still a good king as far as a king went, but he went down spiritually fast because things were just not good. Okay, so watch this. And this was the other thing I was going to tell you. King Lemuel, when you read that word, that name in here, you go, who is this? Because do you know in Hebrew history there's no mention of a King Lemuel? Well, King Lemuel, the word Lemuel means beloved of God. All right? Beloved of God. Now check this out. Solomon's birth name, which actually was Jedediah, that's what God told him to name the child, was also beloved of the Lord. It's the same name. Now, I didn't notice this for years and years and years. I never noticed this. I always thought, why would God tell them to name a child something and then them not go by that name? Right? Well, the reason is twofold. Solomon's name means peace. You hear me? Solomon. I know we got a lot of kids in here, but that's okay. We love kids. You can't have Mother's Day without kids. Right? Right. And I cut my teeth on preaching in Mexico, and you don't preach in Mexico without 100 kids running around. It's just the way it is. So don't bother me, so don't let it bother you. Solomon's name means peace. Okay? The reason he's named that is a kingly name, and it's reflective on what God was going to do. So during the time of Solomon's reign, he fought no wars. There was peace. Therefore, Solomon means peace. Now, Lemuel means beloved of God. Jedediah means beloved of the Lord. Same thing. Now, when he says the sayings of King Lemuel contain this message, which his mother mother taught him. If that's true, let me ask you a question. Who's King Lemuel's mother? Bathsheba. See, it's the name for Solomon. It's actually, I believe, it's a pet name. And I think don't most of us have a pet name?
Yes.
Right? Katerina, what was your pet name? Uh-huh. What? Roscoe. Obviously, it's a dad name on it. Right? Roscoe.
There we go.
You know what my pet name is for Michelle? Buddy. Right? Now, here's what's fun. Little short redhead in the crowd, right? I go, Buddy! All these guys turn around. And then the little short redhead goes, I'm right here. Okay, buddy. You know what my nickname was, or my pet name? Chigger. My dad said, man, you're like a chigger. You just can't ever really get him off of it. So, we all have them. And then there's a person who's a professional name giver. Mike Nolan, if you don't have a nickname, see Mike Nolan after the service. Okay? All right. So it's a pet name. It's a pet name, and it means the same thing. Now, for you to understand completely what's going on here, you say, why is he calling himself King Lemuel? He's calling himself this because he's talking to his mother. Right? And now you're going to see his mother basically writes Proverbs 31. Now, why is his mother called him Lemuel? Because it's her pet name for God's name for him. And the reason he says King Lemuel is because his mother must have told him his whole life he was going to be the king. See, she downloaded something in him. See, our mothers should say things that are good to us, not things that tear us down. Now, if your mother tore you down as a child, forgive her and move forward and surround yourself with a woman who will call you names that are good. That's it. All right. Now watch this, verse 2. O my son, O son of my womb. Who's talking? Bathsheba's talking. O son of my vows, do not waste your strength on women, on those who ruin kings. You think he should have listened to this to start with?
Absolutely.
Because we know that was his downfall. Was he a good king his whole life? Yes. Where did he mess up? He married for diplomacy.
Yeah.
Right? You don't marry for diplomacy, honestly. And in fact, you never really saw that until Solomon in history. From that point on, you see it all over the place. And they thought, and the world thought, he's a wise king. He did this, so it must be good. No, everybody can make mistakes, even the wisest king in the world. Right? It is not for kings, O Lemuel, to guzzle wine. Rulers should not crave alcohol. I thought that was interesting. For if they drink, they may forget the law and not give justice to the oppressed. Have you ever thought that one of the reasons a king should be a king is to give relief to the oppressed? That's interesting. All right. Alcohol is for the dying, and wine for those in bitter distress. Let them drink and forget their poverty, and remember their troubles no more. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed. Yes, speak up for the poor and helpless, and see that they get justice. Now, you read that and you go, that doesn't sound like Proverbs 31. That's because most people start Proverbs 31 with verse 10. But the reason she's saying this is Bathsheba talking to Solomon. She's saying this to help him understand who he should be. One of the things in Hebrew society is the women raised the boys and the girls until they were 12 years old. That's what they did. And so it was mainly the women or the mothers downloaded almost everything that the child believed about themselves. Now check this out. Most people think I'm sending my kid to school to get an education. Whether that's 5, 6, 7. Listen to me, young parents. You ready? The mother downloads 90% of what the child knows by the age of 5.
Right.
Did you hear what it said? Do not let any teacher tell you you cannot teach your child. That is a lie.
Amen.
That is a lie. In fact, when you stand before God on the day of judgment, now if you're saved, you're cool, you're good, right? But when you stand before God on the day of judgment, check this out. He's not going to say, oh, you shouldn't be standing here. Where's your kid's teacher? See, because we will be judged for our kids' actions up until they're considered an adult. Did you know that? Let me ask you a question. Oh, they're going to go, where's your first grade teacher? That's who needs to be standing here. No, they're going to be talking to you, Mama. That's who God's going to be talking. That's the way it is. Now, watch this. Now listen to this list of things. Now, first of all, a little disclaimer. This is not a list for if you don't measure up to these things, you're worthless. That's not what this is for. This is for an idea of who you should become. Now, some people make a mess of their life early on. That was me. Right? Do you know there was a day I thought I would never be a dad? Literally. But now I have 3 of the best kids to me. And other people have told me that you would ever meet. What happened? I was in transformation. Once I gave my heart to the Lord and began to follow Him fully, I began to download that into my kids. And you know what I did to my kids a lot? I apologized constantly. Did you hear me? Sometimes you have to apologize to your kids.
Yeah, you do.
But when you do, then you back it up with new behavior. I backed it up with new behavior. Right? Now watch this. Here we go. Verse 10, chapter 31. This is what a virtuous woman looks like. Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is more precious than rubies. Now, I'm going to stop there. Check this out. Do you know what the word in Hebrew for virtuous wife is? Wonder Woman. Alright, so right off the bat, I'm telling you, it doesn't mean you have to do all these things. It means it's something you aspire to. It's something you try to live up to, right? That's the reality. But if we all want to, if little girls watch the Wonder Woman show now, they want to put on the little outfit and dress up, what are they doing? They're aspiring to be that person, right? Right? You know who I aspire to be? Tarzan. I don't know if I ever measured up. I don't swim that good. I can run pretty fast, or I used to, for a knee replacement.
You got the hair, Jim.
I got the hair for it.
Yeah, there you go.
And some people would say I look like I'm related to a gorilla. But anyway. But the point is, it's something that you aspire to. So here we go. Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is more precious than rubies.
Yes.
All right? Another way to say that is she's more precious than a 401k.
Yeah.
She's more precious than a Corvette.
Yes, amen.
She's more precious than a house with a white picket fence.
Yes.
She's more precious than, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
It's her. Right? Or a Harley.
Let's leave
I'd
that
sell
out.
my Harley in a minute if it meant she was going to leave. I'd be rid of it. All right. Just so you know. If she said it's me or the Harley, I'd say, can I name you Harley? Anyway, I'll tease. All right. That's fun, man. Who can find a virtuous, capable wife? She's more precious than rubies. Her husband can trust her. Did you hear that? Why is that one mentioned first? Because it's the most important. Her husband can trust her. Ready? And she will greatly enrich his life.
Amen.
Amen.
How many of you know Michelle enough to know that she has greatly enriched my life?
Yes.
Amen.
Right? If you were to see this from a cartoon point of view, and you saw me standing up here, and you didn't know she was behind me, and everything was black behind me, you know how sometimes it looks that way in cartoons? If they did a side view of that, what that means is I'm standing up here talking, but she's behind me doing this.
Yeah, yeah, holding you up, yeah.
She's holding me up, right? Think about that. All right. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. Now, when you read those first two, you go, oh, here we go. Male-dominated society. Women are always subservient, blah, blah, blah. Then you ain't read the rest of the chapter. You ready? She finds wool and flax and busily spins it. You know what that means? She supplies every need that her family has. Huh? Who does? The virtuous wife.
Yes.
Watch this. She's like a merchant ship bringing her food from afar. You know what that means? She's always prepared.
Yes.
Come hell or high water, she's prepared. How do you prepare for hell or high water? You pray.
Amen.
You seek God because He's the only one that knows when it's coming. Right? She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household. It doesn't say her husband. This is her household. And plan the day's work for her servant girls. Now you might go, dang it, I wish I had a servant girl. Well, let me tell you what. Bathsheba had a staff of servant girls. I'm not talking slaves. These were people who served her. You know what she did every day? She got up and she took care of her immediate family, but everything else she did, she was in charge of it. Stop and think about that for a minute. That's a manager of people, right? She goes to inspect a field and buys it. Oh, now we're talking about something different. Now she's also an entrepreneur. See? The women's movement of today has a tendency to try to separate womanhood into segments. I hate to tell you, but women do all kinds of things, and wives do all kinds of things that you cannot measure.
Amen.
You know, one of the things that aggravates me when I counsel men and women when they start to run into problems, do you know the number one problem that I deal with? Well, she didn't clean and cook, and when I got home there wasn't food on the table. That's the problem with my wife. And I go, no, the problem is you think she's a slave.
Amen.
And they'll go, that's not what I think. Well, your mouth just proved it. Your actions just proved it.
Yep.
She is not meant to serve you hand and foot. She's meant to be beside you.
Yes.
I hate to tell you, she was not created from your foot bone. She was created from your rib bone.
Amen. Yep.
And I don't care how tall your wife is, your arm should be around her.
Amen.
Yes.
And not to control her, but to be a part of her.
Yes.
If she's tall, then you're like this. If she's short, you're like this. If she's big, then you're like this. If she's skinny, then you wrap her around the house. It's just the way it is, right? But she's meant to be beside you.
Yes.
All right. She is energetic and strong and a hard worker.
Yes.
You know what that means? She got no quitter. And if your wife begins to have quit in her, then something's going on and you need to be attentive, man. Because something's off balance. And that's where we step in to figure out, not to diagnose her, but to try to figure out with her what's going on so that we can help her. Right? Her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting fiber. Now, we don't see this much anymore because we live in a different society. Not 99% of the time we buy this stuff. We need needle and thread, we go buy it, right? Back in this day, for you to make a quilt, first you had to spin the yarn out of a sheet or out of cotton. Can you imagine the way that, and by the way, this part right here is not written by Bathsheba. It's written by Solomon. Okay? So he's observing, and he's talking about things he's observed of what a virtuous woman is. Now think about this. How would you like to, and I know this is, I went to my nephew's, niece and nephew-in-law's wedding 2 years ago, 3 years ago, on the Navajo Nation in Arizona. And there was a little great-grandma standing there that was 95. Full jewelry. Man, she looked great. Long black and gray hair. And I was like, and I'm a student of people, so I said, what's her story? And they go, do you know that woman can still skin a sheep? She can shear a sheep and skin the sheep the same day and have that lamb or that sheep on the supper table that day. 95 years old. Shear the sheep. Kill and skin the sheep. Have it on the supper table that age. 95 years old.
Yes.
I'll tell you something else she can do. Clothes she was wearing, she spin the yarn. Now that is a well-rounded woman.
Amen.
My goodness, I as a man who am used to working every day could not do all of that. That is amazing. Very few of those kind of women around. Part of the reason is our society has got away from spinning yarn, doing this stuff. But what is the point? She so prepares through making the twine in the garment that she not only can make it, she can make the clothes that her kids will wear. That's incredible. But I want you to see how well-rounded she is. Not all of us can do that. You know what? During this day and time, if you couldn't do that, then you bartered with somebody who could do it for the thing that you did well. You know, when Michelle and I first got married, I had lost everything. Come out of a marriage, I lost everything. I didn't have nothing. Carpentry was zero. I could make more money washing a car than I could be on carpentry at the time. Right? And so what I did was I bartered like crazy. Michelle says, we really need a washer and dryer. I said, you're right. I went and built a porch and got a washer and dryer out of it. My father-in-law needed something done. I went and did it. He gave me a car. And you go, well, he gave me a car. We all think a $5,000 car. No, $700 car. But you know, I drove that thing 5 years.
Yeah.
Probably the best car I ever owned. But I bartered for it. That's what you do here if you can't do this. All right. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy.
Amen.
She has no fear of winter for her household, for everyone has warm clothes. What does that mean? In the summertime, she's making clothes because the winter is coming.
Yeah.
This woman is always prepared. Isn't that amazing? She makes her own bedspreads. You know what that means? It means she's in charge. Bathsheba is wealthy by the time she writes this. I mean, how would we call it in English society? She's the queen mother. Right? Think about that. Her son is the prince who is now the king. That makes her the queen mother. Right? But when it says she makes her own bedspread, you know what that means? She does not use the servants in her bedroom. She handles everything in the bedroom because that area is sacred. That's the way they do it. So that meant she made the stuff on the bed, she fluffed the pillows, she made the bed because that was her and her husband's sanctuary. See that? She dresses in fine linen and purple gowns. Now, I hope I ain't stepping on too many toes here, but this is what I'm going to get into. You know what that means? She looked good anywhere she went. I know there are days that you run out of milk and you got to run to Dollar General real quick and get some, and I know you might have jumped out of bed and realized I got to run to Dollar General and get some milk because, you know, that's the way it is. And so we go in there in our pajamas quick so nobody sees. Right? I know those days happen.
Yeah.
I know those days happen. But if it's noon shame on you. You know why? That tells me you look that way all the time. That is not a virtuous woman. That is a lazy woman. And if I didn't see it on a regular basis, I wouldn't be saying it. And do you know why I say something? Because I care.
Yes.
A person who says nothing about your behavior is a person who does not care.
That's right.
Now, if all you can afford is house shoes and pajamas, I get that. But brush your hair.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Brush your teeth.
Yeah. Amen.
All right. All right, so that's all I'm going to do to get on to somebody. All right? Here we go. Her husband is well known at the city gates where he sits with the other civic leaders. Now, in this day, in this society, men were the leaders. But they were only good men if they had a good woman behind them. Otherwise, they were like a tyrant. And they treated everybody like crap, like they were beneath them. But a man who was gentle and or led with gentleness and served other people, 99.9% of the time had a great woman behind him, made him more well-rounded.
Yes, amen.
All right? Now here's my favorite part of the whole thing. She makes belted linen garments and sashes to sell to the merchants. Now the way I see that, who's the merchants? The merchants are wealthy people who do trade. Well, it just said that her husband sat at the city gate and was a good man and worked with the civic leaders. That kind of makes him a merchant. So in this picture of me, for me, when I read this, this is what I see. I come up to the city gate and say, hey guys, how's it going? We got some business to do today, and we need to talk about some things we need to vote on. And our community needs to go in this direction because we need to protect the needy, and we need to do this, and we need to do that. Okay, we good? Yes, we're good. All right. Now listen, my wife made this belt, and it's gorgeous, is it not? I'll sell it to you for 20 bucks because my wife made it to sell it. And this scarf that I've got on that my wife made, right? Oh, I'm sorry, we call it a neckerchief. Okay, it's for sale too. How you guys ain't laughing? Can you not see that his wife is selling her stuff through him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? I mean, you guys may not understand this. Is anybody in this room other than me colorblind? Okay, but you're a woman. And you can get away with it. Because usually, if you went out and you were colorblind and you had something that was mixed match, they wouldn't say, did your mama dress you? They're not going to say that to you. But to me, they're going to say, why did your mama dress you? Of nothing I got on matches. Right? Two different colored socks, you put them on the dark, they all look the same. For me, if they're below light blue, they all look the same. Right? That's why I don't wear socks. Anyway. But here's the deal. Michelle makes sure I look presentable. Black shirt,
I try.
black boots, cut off sleeves, hair in a ponytail. See, I'm at least crimping a little, and it's because she said, okay, that's acceptable, you can leave the house. Right? We got to have that. Otherwise, we're a mess. Okay. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. I don't know if you ever thought about it. That's like belly laughing, right? You can't belly laugh if you're full of anxiety. When you're full of anxiety, when you're worried about the future, you know how you laugh?
That's true.
I ain't laughing.
No.
That's a fearful laugh. But a person who belly laughs in the middle of tough things, that's a person who knows where to go.
Yes.
You ever thought about that? All right. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instruction with kindness. Right?
Yes.
Sometimes my words are not kind. I'm just telling the truth. Yeah, but you use the truth like a sledgehammer. How many have ever hit their swinging that dude hard. I was busting that concrete. You know what I'm saying? And the truth is, you could miss, right? You always know you could miss. But I glanced off that rock and it hit me right in the shin.
Oh, I've done it. I've done it.
Oh, my gosh. That's truth with a sledgehammer. I know I can miss, but when you miss, dang, the consequences are ridiculous. It's the same with truth. When you speak truth, speak it with love. Right? Speak it as if you want it spoken to you that way. A good woman does that. Right? Like my wife will say sometimes, Jim, honey bunny, we're going to this certain thing tonight and you really need to wear a shirt and sleeves. And it would be nice if it wasn't printed. And it would be really sweet, honey, if it had a collar. Okay. I can do that because look at the words she used. But if she says, oh, you ain't going out of the house looking like that, then I just go in and throw in one of these shirts with sleeves on. When I really needed to put a collar on. See what I mean that? She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness. She is not lazy. Now, somebody didn't get the memo in our society right now.
And that's true.
And it's not just young girls. There's a bunch of young men that are stinking lazy.
Yeah.
And government right now ain't helping anything. Give us all this stuff. Right? If you want something, you work for it.
Yes.
If you're going to be a good woman and a good mother, you work. That's what you do. Now, you may not always get monetary value. But let me tell you, that work will show up in your children.
Yes, amen.
Those children love their mother. Those children love their family. Those children love their grandmother. Those children love. And why do they love? Because they have been downloaded respect, which only comes through work. Just saying.
Amen.
Her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. He's speaking here of his mother. Now, let me tell you something. My mother didn't do everything right. And I've preached several sermons on Mother's Day for my mother, and it has to do with the first 5 years of my life because that's when she did the best job. From that point on, not so good. So I choose to pick out the part that she did well. You hear me? I choose. And you know what I tell you? You get to be the recipient of a teacher of the Bible because of my mother. Because my mother taught me the Bible the first 5 years of my life, and that has never gone away. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, amen.
So evidently, that first 5 years is important. Right? It's affected everything I've done in my life. And I didn't just become a preacher one day and start studying the Word. The reason I became a preacher is because people began to realize I had this understanding of the Word. Right? Where'd that come from? My mother. Right? But what causes me to be a good pastor and a good preacher and a good leader is the redhead. She's the one that causes that. Because she's a virtuous woman. Does she hit everything on this list? No. And as I said in the first service, and I got a good reaction to it, I'm working on her in the weak areas. But you know what the weak areas are? They're all mechanical. Right? I'm not talking relational. I'm not talking as a woman. I'm talking about, honey, if something happens to me, you need to be able to adjust the carburetor. You know? When the oven door falls off, you need to understand how it works. You put it back on. Those are the areas I'm working on. Or if it's something you can't fish, you need to call Cat. He'll come to your house and he'll fix it all the drive. It's all new, you know. And he's just one of me. But because he was in my eyesight, that's what happened. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world. You could almost put a period right there. And if you have one of these virtues, that's the starting point. If you don't have any, get to working on it. That means you're lazy. Okay? But here's the deal, and I'm saying that in love. I have been lazy at different points in my life. Usually I was depressed. There was a reason for that. You know what got me out of my depression years ago? God would say, Jim, something ain't right. You need to do something. I don't want to do nothing. And God would say, the yard needs to be mowed. What's God doing? He's trying to get me up. And you say, when did God say that? You know that thought that comes out of nowhere?
Yeah.
That's something positive? That's God.
Yes.
Right? And so you know what I did? I got up and I started mowing. Because the minute I started getting my blood pumping and started mowing, all of a sudden I felt better. And then you know what he'd say by the time I go cut the mower off? Why don't you mow the neighbor's yard? And I go, okay. So I mowed the neighbor's yard. You know what he said on that day I was really depressed? Why don't you mow the next one? One Sunday afternoon, I mowed 4 yards down the block. And I had it on a higher gauge. Don't go mow their yard on the bottom because they might be really mad. But I mowed 4 yards. You know what? By the time I got home, I was tired. I slept good because I was no longer depressed. See, when you do things for others, it's medicine. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. All. Watch this. Charm is deceptive, and beauty does not last, but a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised.
Amen.
Reward her for all she has done. Let her deeds publicly declare her praise. And I always say, if her deeds don't publicly declare her praise, if you're her husband, declare them for her.
Yes. Amen.
I married way up. If you look at my pedigree, I'm down here somewhere. As far as I'm concerned, she's queenly. Right? Good job. She's queenly. And you treat her that way. Now, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to end with this. I got this little spoiler thing out of it. One time in 35 years, Michelle's put gas in her car. And that's because she had to. She was stuck out on the road somewhere. Because I forgot to fill it up. And she got out there and she had to do it. There was one other time, but RJ, our youngest, was with her. Right? Now, to qualify that, that's what I do for her. Right? That's one of my ways in which I serve her. Now, yesterday she was mowing and she ran out of gas. I said, the gas tank's right over there. Because it ain't the car.
But who filled it?
But then I filled it because she gave me that look. I'm just saying these things because when you see something virtuous, you should say something. Mike and I go to lunch every week. And every week, we pay attention to waiters and waitresses who do a good job. And the reason is, and if they don't, we help them bring it up a notch. Right? Like in our tip, if our tip says you could do better, but it's still generous, they may look at you. I remember one time this waiter was doing a really good job, but he lacked a couple of things, right? And I was watching him, and I noticed he wasn't getting good tips. And he comes over to my table, and he does something. I said, listen, I'm about to tip you, but before I tip you, I need you to sit down. He sat down. I said, listen, I've been observing what you're doing. And you're doing this one thing step your game up right there, your tips will come up. And he goes, really? I said, just do it. I'll sit here and watch. So I went ahead and tipped him. It was a $25 bill. I tipped him $10. And he went, wow. And I said, now. And I sat there for 15 minutes and watched him. And he comes back and he sits down and he goes, it works! I said, dude, bring it up a little. You got the skill, just do it, right? But Mike and I got this one place we go, and this little gal is the workingest gal you've ever seen. I think she's maybe 29. And after we praised her about 4 times, she got to talking to us more. Come find out she got 6 kids. And I'm like, your kids ain't lacking in nothing, are they? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There ain't nobody gonna think my kids are poor. Why'd she do that? She's a virtuous woman.
Amen.
She pours it into them. Whether she's got it or not, she pours it into them because she recognizes they're the future, right?
Amen.
And every time, you know what we start doing? We love you. Because we don't know if she's here at home. And we don't mean that in any bad way.
Yeah.
We mean we love you because you represent the future and you're doing things right.
Yes.
See what we're doing? We're building her up because we don't know if she's getting it anywhere else.
Right.
And you know what? We've become her favorite patrons. Now why is that? Why ain't everybody in the room her favorite patron? Because they're not paying attention. They're not paying attention when they see a virtuous woman. Tell them. Show them. Teach them. That's our jobs. That's what we should be doing. Why is Bathsheba writing most of Proverbs 31? She wants her son to know what's right. Right? She's still teaching, even though he's probably 30 years old now. Still teaching. Michelle and I still teach. We still look. We still pray for. We still protect. We still nurture our children. Because we are being good parents. You, as a woman, can be a virtuous woman by doing the same thing. Thank you for being with me. Let's listen to this next song.